When many people picture North America before European contact, they imagine a vast, untouched wilderness, a continent devoid of the massive ancient monuments found in Europe or Egypt. If you browse history forums today, you will frequently come across variations of the same question: are there any megaliths in the United States? People are looking for big, heavy stones propped up in a field. This specific expectation has driven some bizarre historical hoaxes. Take the site known as America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire. In the 1930s, an insurance executive bought the land and physically rearranged the stones, convinced he was uncovering an ancient settlement built by Irish monks. Visitors are shown artifacts like a sacrificial stone, complete with carved grooves for channeling blood. But archaeologists have a much simpler explanation. Those grooves are typical of 19th century cider presses, or lye leaching stones used by colonial farmers to make soap. But what happens if we drop the expectation that ancient North Americans built exactly like ancient Europeans? What if we stop looking for isolated standing stones? When we do, we find that indigenous cultures engineered entire landscapes, building enormous, complex observatories designed to track the movements of the cosmos. In the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans integrated their buildings directly into the geography of the canyons. High up on Fajada Butte, within New Mexico's Chaco Canyon, they constructed an extraordinary astronomical tool known as the sun dagger. This diagram illustrates how the system works. 3 massive rock slabs are positioned against a cliff face to precisely filter the incoming sunlight. As the sun moves, slivers of light pass through the gaps, projecting a sharp dagger shape onto a spiral petroglyph carved into the rock behind them. Depending on the time of year, that dagger of light shifts its position on the rock. On the summer solstice, it perfectly bisects the center of the spiral. On the winter solstice, 2 distinct daggers of light perfectly frame the spiral's outer edges. This level of solar precision is an architectural standard across the region. At Hovenweep National Monument, D-shaped and circular stone towers feature small ports that align with the sun during the solstices and equinoxes. The ancestral Puebloans engineered their architecture to physically capture the sun's seasonal cycles, embedding timekeeping directly into their homes and ceremonial spaces. In the Midwest, the Hopewell culture worked on an entirely different scale, using the earth itself rather than stone as their primary building material. At the Newark Earthworks and High Bank Works in Ohio, they constructed immense geometric shapes. These are perfect circles and octagons enclosing 20 acres of land, created through millions of hours of meticulous physical labor. And they were built to track the moon, specifically a complex 18.6-year astronomical pattern known as the lunar standstill cycle, which determines the extreme northern and southern points where the moon rises and sets on the horizon. This map of the Newark Earthworks reveals the astronomical precision involved. By drawing sightlines extending straight through the octagon's vertices and gateways, researchers found that the earthen structure perfectly aligns to all 8 of these specific lunar standstill points. Mapping an 18.6-year cycle with this level of accuracy required generations of sustained scientific observation. The Hopewell tracked these celestial movements over decades, calculating extreme mathematical distances to align their architecture, all without the use of written records. They created a multi-generational cosmic clock out of soil, a system far more mathematically complex than a standard solar calendar. Further west, nearly 10,000 feet up in the peaks of Wyoming's Binghorn Mountains, sits the Bighorn Medicine Wheel. It features 28 spokes of white limestone radiating outward from a central pile of stones, or cairn. While alignments here do track the sun, the wheel's layout also functions as a map for the stars. This top-down schematic maps how the specific outer cairns function. If you sight from the center to these outer points, they align with the heliacal, or pre-dawn, risings of vital stars like Aldebaran, Rigel, and Sirius as they appear above the horizon. This practice of tracking the deeper cosmos wasn't limited to mapping regular, repeating cycles. Returning to the ancestral Puebloans in Chaco Canyon, we find evidence of astronomers documenting rare, unexpected stellar anomalies. In July 1054 AD, a massive supernova exploded in the constellation Taurus, burning so brightly it was visible during the day for over 3 weeks. On a canyon wall in New Mexico, a pictograph permanently records this event, showing the exploding star positioned precisely next to a waning crescent moon. Ancient indigenous astronomers actively documented extraordinary celestial anomalies to preserve critical astronomical data for future generations. The scale of these astronomical and geometric sites reveals a sophisticated level of social organization and engineering in ancient North America. At sites like Cahokia in Illinois, engineers meticulously mixed specific clays to control drainage and stability, building structures designed to withstand centuries of erosion. Monk's Mound was the centerpiece of a sprawling urban center, requiring the movement of massive volumes of soil according to a precise architectural plan. Similarly, the cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde, with their intricate multi-level masonry, were not temporary shelters. They were continuously occupied and adapted by generations of master engineers who shaped their communities directly into the rock. The persistent belief that America lacked monumental history stems from looking for the wrong type of architecture. We expected European-style stone circles and overlooked the massive achievements built into the land itself. These landscapes stand as massive, precise scientific instruments, engineered by civilizations that integrated the motions of the sky into the soil beneath their feet. Descending into the torch-lit tunnels beneath modern Jerusalem reveals a foundation space largely hidden from the world above. Looking at this diagram, you can see how a single 13.5-meter block of limestone stacks up against 2 fully loaded Boeing 747s. We know this as the Western Stone, and it contains 517 metric tons of solid mass. Hoisting a block of this size today demands specialized industrial cranes and steel cables, yet the engineers who positioned this foundation stone did it 2,000 years ago using wood, rope, and sand. To understand how our ancestors pulled this off, we have to map out the 3 precise logistical hurdles of ancient construction: carving the stone, moving the mass, and fitting the pieces together. This single limestone block shows that we have often underestimated the physics and engineering capabilities of ancient humans. The first major obstacle in massive stone construction is extracting and shaping the raw material without iron or explosives. In the basalt cliffs of western India, builders devised an ingenious solution. Instead of quarrying blocks and stacking them upward, they practiced subtractive architecture. This means cutting directly down into a mountain and hollowing out everything that isn't a building. Looking at this high-angle view of the Kailasa temple, it becomes clear this entire complex is a continuous piece of the surrounding cliffside. Masons chiseled out over 200,000 tons of volcanic rock to free the structure from the earth. Carving a temple out of a single mountain requires immense endurance, but other sites required a completely different approach: modular, repeatable precision. We find this high in the Bolivian Andes at Pumapunku. Scattered across this site are the H-blocks, milled from andesite, an incredibly hard volcanic rock. The ancient masons cut these stones into identical, repeating geometric forms designed to lock together flawlessly. Whether removing a mountain top-down or milling interchangeable building blocks, the engineers had to hold a perfect 3-dimensional map in their minds before making a single cut. A stray strike of the chisel was permanent. Once a massive stone is shaped, the second logistical nightmare begins, dragging hundreds of tons of dead weight without the wheel or draft animals. These shattered fragments lying in the grass of Brittany, France, belong to the Grand Menhir Brisé. Before it was broken, this single pillar of granite weighed an estimated 330 tons. This mechanical breakdown illustrates how a weight of that magnitude is distributed evenly across a massive wooden sledge. By resting the sledge on a track of lubricated rolling logs, the extreme friction against the ground is reduced to a manageable level. Keeping that sled moving over uneven terrain required hundreds, if not thousands, of people pulling in perfect synchronization. It was a masterpiece of labor coordination. But dragging wasn't the only option. On the Pacific island of Pohnpei, the builders of Nan Madol used buoyancy. They lashed 50-ton basalt logs to rafts and let the water carry the immense weight through the city's flooded channels. ancient transportation relied entirely on a sophisticated manipulation of environmental physics, specifically balancing load against friction on land and harnessing the lifting power of water at sea. The final hurdle is lifting these colossal puzzle pieces and locking them securely into a finished structure. High above Cusco, Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman was constructed using polygonal masonry, a technique where stones are carved with multiple interlocking faces. Masons shaped these 100-ton blocks with so many custom angles that they slot into their neighbors flush. The seams are cut so tight that a single sheet of paper won't slide between them. Because these joints use no mortar, the dry stacked walls have room to subtly shift and flex. They absorb seismic energy, standing tall through centuries of severe earthquakes that easily toppled the later colonial buildings. Returning to the Western stone, this cross-section shows the sandbox lowering technique. The 500-ton block sits over a sand-filled trench. By draining the sand through bottom holes, engineers controlled the descent of 500,000 kilograms of rock into a flush position with millimeter accuracy. These assembly techniques weaponized gravity. The sheer mass of the stones became the very mechanism holding the walls together. Beyond the physical engineering, these structures present a massive chronological challenge to modern historians. Looking at the massive T-shaped limestone pillars here at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, you are staring at a site built roughly 11,000 years ago, thousands of years before the invention of agriculture. The standard historical sequence assumes humans first learned to farm, settled into villages, and only then built temples. Göbekli Tepe reveals the opposite. Hunters gathered to raise massive stone rings before they had a single barn or wheat field. We tend to view human history as a straight, upward trending line, assuming that ancient automatically equals primitive. But these megaliths sit around the globe as petrified proof of mathematically brilliant, highly capable societies. The real challenge now is looking past our modern biases and giving our ancestors the credit they clearly earned.